Hey friends, happy Sunday and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. Today I have 7 meals to share with you from this past week. I'm going to show you everything that we ate for dinner for the past week. And I've got 3 new recipes to share with you in depth. So let's go ahead and get into this week's What's for Dinner. Starting off Friday night, I made this ham and cheese pasta. I have made other ham and cheese pastas before, but this one is a one-pot meal, which I love one-pot meals. So I'm starting off by melting 2 tablespoons of butter in my skillet, and then I cooked up about half of a diced onion until it started to turn translucent. And then I added in some minced garlic and just let that cook for about 30 seconds. And then I added in my diced up ham. I am using ham that I had in the freezer left over from Christmas, but you could just use like lunch meat ham or like Canadian bacon or something, whatever you can find. Just dice it up. And I did probably about 1.5 cups of this. That's what I had frozen in the freezer. And then I just let that cook up for another couple of minutes till it got nice and warm. And then I'm going to add in 4 cups of water and then enough Knorr chicken bouillon to turn that into a chicken broth, 1 cup of half and half, some salt and pepper, and then my pasta. I'm using this fun like curly pasta from Trader Joe's. We really like it. I used the whole 16-ounce bag. I gave that a good stir and then I put a lid on this and let it come to a boil. Then once it came to the boil, I took the lid off, stirred it, turned it down to like a medium low and let this continue to cook for like 10 to 15 minutes until the pasta was done. And I did take off the lid and stir it a couple times throughout the cooking process so that my pasta didn't stick together or stick to the bottom of the pan. Then once my pasta was done, all you have to do is add in your cheese. The recipe suggested Monterey Jack cheese, and so that is what I did. I had some freshly grated Monterey Jack cheese. I stirred that in and then this was ready to eat. I will say we liked this, but I think I prefer ham with like cheddar cheese. So in the future when I make this, I will do it with cheddar. Other than that, it was good and it was quick and easy and not a lot of dishes since it's a one-pot meal. Saturday night, I ended up not having to cook. Thank goodness. I was like really tired this day from going to the kids' karate and their belt testing and everything. But there's a lady who goes through our neighborhood and knocks on the door and sells tamales and empanadas sometimes. And usually we buy from her. And she happened to show up like right as I was about to start cooking dinner. So we just bought a whole bag full of tamales and that is what we had for dinner. We had picked up some of this Taco Bell queso earlier in the day. I had mentioned this back, I think when we were camping, that it tastes like the nacho cheese that's in the Lunchables, which to us is very good. We actually found it at Big Lots. Before we had found it at Dollar General, but I hadn't seen it there or anywhere else. So Big Lots has it. It has like a permanent spot on the shelf. So if you're looking for it, maybe you can find it there. So we just had that with our tamales and it was delicious. Sunday night we had Shepards Pie. I've shown how I make this multiple times, so down below I will leave a video where I made it as well as a link to the original recipe. The original recipe is actually like a cottage pie because she uses ground beef, and it's only Shepards Pie if you use a lamb, which we did. We prefer lamb in it, but you can use beef if you want to instead. And this is a favorite. I always have like leftover mashed potatoes in the freezer to make it really simple and easy to make. Monday night we had chicken quesadillas. So I just threw 3 chicken breasts in the crock pot with a package of sazon, some adobo seasoning, and then 1 jar of salsa verde, and then just put a lid on this and let it cook on low for like 8 hours. It didn't need that long, but I just let it cook while I throughout the day. And then all I had to do was go in and shred that up. I used a big kitchen fork, shredded it up, and then I just made some quesadillas with this. This can be used for anything: chicken tacos, chicken enchiladas, chicken burritos, which you'll see I did do that later in the week as well. I love making chicken like this in the crock pot, just a little bit of seasoning and some salsa. You can mix it up with the seasoning. Sometimes I do just plain old taco seasoning, but I had some sazon and some adobo, so I just used that instead this time. And that salsa verde instead of like red salsa was delicious. And then to go with our quesadillas, I had some black bean soup in the freezer, so I just thawed that out and heated it up on the stove. I will have a video linked down below where I made that. I shared it in some dinner videos before, but I also just have it in a lunch video, so it's quick and easy to find. Tuesday night was another new recipe. This is a honey garlic glazed pork roast and veggie like sheet pan dinner. So I'm starting off by mixing together my seasoning. I'm doing a teaspoon of paprika, a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of onion powder, half a teaspoon of dried thyme, half a teaspoon of dried rosemary, and then some salt and pepper to taste. And then I just mix that up really well. And then I'm also going to start working on my honey garlic glaze. I'm going to peel and mince 4 cloves of garlic. I just used my grater to mince it up. And then 1/4 cup of honey, 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, and a tablespoon of olive oil. And then just whisk that together really, really well. Then I've got my pork loin here, and I'm going to dry it off with some paper towels, and then I spritzed it with some olive oil cooking spray, and then I'm going to cover every side of it with that spice rub that we made and just kind of rub it in there. And then in a skillet over medium heat, I've heated up some olive oil, and I'm going to use that to just sear that pork loin on all sides. Once the pork loin was done, I removed it to a foil-lined baking sheet, and then I coated it with that glaze that we made. I did reserve 2 tablespoons of the glaze to use for the vegetables. If I make this in the future, I think I would reserve probably double that, like either 3 or 4 tablespoons for the vegetables instead, just to give them a little bit more flavor. And I think the amount that was made for the pork was just a little bit too much. As you can see, it's just going to kind of like pool around the pork tenderloin, like it already had enough all over it, and then it just kind of pooled around it, which I did end up like tossing the vegetables in it later. So once I had the pork coated with that, then I put it in the oven on 375 for 25 minutes. And while that was baking, I worked on my veggies. I've got a butternut squash here. I'm going to work on peeling it and then removing the seeds and dicing it into about 1-inch chunks. And then I didn't need this whole thing. I did chop up the whole thing, but I'm going to use the other half of it for something else. I only used half of that butternut squash for this. And then I also did broccoli. The original recipe you'll see that I have linked down below. I wanted to use Brussels sprouts. My family doesn't like those, so I just did broccoli instead. And I tossed the butternut squash and the broccoli together with that remaining like glaze mixture that we made, along with some salt and pepper. And then when the pork came out of the oven after 25 minutes, I covered it with some foil and then put the veggies on the other side of the pan. And then I stuck this back in the oven for another 35 minutes is how long it took for me to get my pork to the proper internal temperature and for my veggies to be done. Then once it was done, I just let that meat rest for about 10 minutes. And then I sliced it up and I served this with some rice on the side as well. And it was pretty good. I will say the veggies were a little bit bland. My family did not like the butternut squash. Well, me and Lily did, but everybody else didn't. So Elijah and Andy. But I didn't expect them to. They're just not really into squash, really. So they didn't really care for it. But me and Lily really liked it. I will say they were a little bland. So I would prefer a little bit more of that glaze mixture on the veggies next time. And the pork was tender and juicy and delicious. And I think next time I would do this with like some fried rice or something. I think it would be good with that. So yes. The final new meal we tried this week was what was called a pizza pot pie. I found this recipe over on TikTok. So I'm starting off by just browning up some ground beef with some salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion salt, a little bit of Italian seasoning, and some red pepper flakes. And I'm just going to get that completely browned up. So once the beef was browned, then I just stirred in 1 jar of marinara sauce. And then I have a box of Red Lobster Cheddar Bay biscuit mix here. This is going to be the top of our like pizza pot pie. You're just going to mix that up according to the package directions and keep the little garlic butter packet for the end. Then you can just top your ground beef and marinara sauce mixture with whatever pizza toppings you want. I did a little bit of bacon bits and then some pepperoni, and then I topped it with a bunch of mozzarella cheese, and then I spooned that Red Lobster biscuit mix over the top. And then this went in the oven on 375 for 25 minutes, and then I pulled it out and covered it with foil and put it back in there for another 25 minutes. You just want to make sure that that biscuit mix gets cooked all the way through. Then at the very end, when it came out, I took that butter mixture and I had melted butter and mixed it together according to the package directions, and then I just brushed that over the top and let that sit for a couple minutes. All the butter could get soaked up, and then you just serve it up in bowls. We had salad on the side of this, and I thought it was pretty delicious. And Thursday night, the last meal of the week, we just had some burritos. I was going to cook something else, but we had leftover chicken from when we had the quesadillas, so I just decided to do burritos this night. I cooked up a package of Mexican rice and then heated up our chicken, and we've got rice and chicken and cheese and sour cream and Taco Bell sauce on our burritos, and then just rolled them up, and I repeated this until everybody had a burrito. And that was it. Super filling burritos for Thursday night. And that is going to be it for this week's What's for Dinner. I hope that you guys got some new meal ideas. If you did, let me know down below what you plan on trying. I hope y'all have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.